welcome back for the final time, ladies and gentlemen, to the recap review of the hit HBO show It. Welcome to Derry, brought to you by the Culture Collective, fueled by and powered by Big Gold Belt Media. We are here to talk about the season finale, episode 8 of It. Welcome to Derry with my very talented co-host. First, starting with Mike, the Nigerian Nightmare, so well. What's going on, sir?
Going on. This is probably one of the best HBO shows I've seen in a while.
Man,
And
I ain't
that's
asked you all that. I just asked you how you was doing. Look at you, don't jump the gun here. Ugh.
okay.
Michael.
Sorry, that was the nightmare Nigerian on me. Because
Exactly.
if the finale, usually with HBO finales they're hit or miss. So it's
Since
just like
when? Hold up, we're gonna have a discussion about that. But first, we need to introduce Miss Maya Pennywise Desire. What is going on this evening?
I had to do it right for the finale and got my red on, you know what I'm saying, and decided to do a little tribute to Pennywise. So here I am.
Exactly. Like Boys to Men since he's gone. It's so hard to say goodbye
right.
to
And that
what we
copyright claim. Oh
Oh
had.
yeah.
my gosh.
But again, we're here to talk about the season finale of It. Welcome to Derry. We're gonna jump immediately to episode as it starts off with Pennywise starting his assault on Derry here, as it just opens up with every cloud humanly possible coming out and taking over the town. It kind of reminded me of The Mist, which is another Stephen King film, which is another Stephen King novel. So I said, oh, or The Fog, another Stephen King thing, is another Stephen King. And I'm like, okay, I don't know which one of these two they're going to try to incorporate here. But then next up, we get the school being taken over by Pennywise as he announces that all the underclassmen need to report to the auditorium and that school is over for the day. And as the underclassmen arise, we see the principal on stage as he's about to introduce Pennywise, but now understanding the principal is dead, and Pennywise is using him like a ventriloquist dummy to take over the school and take over the kids. And this leads to, after it's revealed that the vice principal is dead, that Pennywise makes all the kids, underclassmen in the school, float. So I'm gonna ask you first, Maya, what do you think about the way this episode starts off?
Man, I mean, again, piggybacking the Nigerian Nightmare over there. It did start off strong, and
Mhm.
we wanted to know because now he's awake, right? They
Yes.
have melted the pillar. He is like, oh, I get to get extra snacks. Say less.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what he did. He went back for the rest of his Halloween candy, so to speak. I thought it was very clever. I knew that he was using the obviously the principal as a puppet, but I was wondering like how he was going to frighten the kids, like how far, like was he gonna rip the spine out, like like what was he gonna do? And yeah, I was just not surprised whatsoever in terms of his play, with them. He's always playing with his food. I've said that before, right? So it's playing with his food, and then finally getting the kids frightened, and then floating them up in the air. So I mean, I was like, again, for this to be a finale episode, the opening was definitely very captive.
Exactly. Mike, what did you think about the opening of this episode?
This is like the first time we've seen Pennywise on a massive scale, just getting a lot of victims all at once,
Mhm.
in a very brutal and graphic way, to a point where it's not like he's not no secret.
Yeah.
Even after the events of this episode, like those kids are, some of them survived. So it's like,
Yeah.
what did I
Mhm.
do? And then by the time whoever read present day, i.e. the movies, like they're all parents or something, right? And so it's like, what do you how do you cope with that?
Mm.
And but even then it was just really nice to see Pennywise unhinged. Like saying, I don't
Yeah,
care. I'm not even gonna try to do something unique here. Which also there is some elements of Carrie in there as well. Um, like but I like that again. He just got all of them, made them all float and stuff. And the way
yeah,
he did it in terms of like visually all like lined up, and it is Pennywise, carousel and everything like that was. I like that. I like that how he did that. But um, yeah, and again the whole episode just him
yeah.
fully covering blood halfway through. It's just like I don't give a damn anymore. Y'all gonna float today.
Yeah. He's
Y'all
like,
pissing me
y'all
off.
woke
I'm about to
me,
go to sleep.
y'all took me out my bed. I'm not taking off my blood bonnet, and I'm about to get to work on everybody here because you done made me get up. But next up, we get Lily, Marge, and Ronnie, and this is them still clearing out the clubhouse after collecting Richie's things. And then they notice a fog that starts to take over the entirety of Derry. And then this is where they come out to investigate, and they see on a wall of where their lighthouse clubhouse is missing posters of every kid in their school is up all of a sudden. And this is them wondering, wait, all of them can't be missing. What is going on here? And this is when they decide to go down to the school. We also get to see a quick I keep on saying wanted, missing poster of also Will being shown to them also here. But this is when they also find the principal dead. And this is where they make the decision to use the dagger that they have to go and rescue Will. So, Mike, what do you think about this whole setup here? One, the point that Pennywise put up these missing posters of all these kids at their clubhouse because he wanted them to see it. There was literally no other reason to do it. And then there's big reveal to them and them making the decision after they see one of Will to go after to rescue him.
Yeah, I thought it was also just to show like him like luring them back into belief getting one of the kids that was trying to do something, especially not Manny. What was the girl with the dagger that's holding it? The one that's
Lily,
perceived as crazy.
Lily, Lily.
Lily, right? Especially Lily, because like she was like the main one that like, oh, I couldn't get you because you had this dagger and stuff. So like, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna take one of your friends one by one, lure you in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I thought, and also even for the fact that Manny has feelings for him or whatever, and at least saw that connection hinted in a previous episode that he's just like, no, we gotta get Will. Um,
Yeah.
which I'll go back to that point because again, I'm still questioning things about her character. Just
Oh,
like
Ronnie. I'm like, who is Manny?
Manny,
Ronnie.
Manny. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Ronnie.
I apologize on behalf of all black women.
That's a hell of
Ronnie.
that's a hell of a name for a black woman. What's your name,
I,
Manny? Be like, Manny, ma'am, why is your name Manny?
I'm
I
not doing this.
apologize.
It
I
was either
apologize to all
Manny or
black women.
Mammy, and I gave you Manny because if you'd have
I'm
said, and I know Mammy was worried about, I'm like, what? Wait a minute.
But no, I again, it's in the '60s. I apologize, but I have all black women. Um, but yeah, but Ronnie, so wanted to check, to get Will and
Yeah,
everything like that. So yeah, they're going to get their friend back, and I think this is after what everything of losing Richie, it's just that
yeah,
now it's like March and everyone is saying, let's go get this fucking clown, which we've been
yeah,
down this road before, and we'll get to
exactly.
cross that line eventually. But that was a nice seed that was planted for what gets revealed later.
Yeah, definitely what gets revealed later, what happens in the future. But next up, we get Leroy as he attempts to reach the house to call Will after he knows the pillar is gone and he wants to make sure his Will is safe. And as he's calling Will, no one picks up, but then he gets a call back. And the call back is from Pennywise. And he asks the question, and I think it was Amaya that brought this up beforehand with Leroy. And it's a great callback here as Pennywise asks, what can scare the man with no fear? And he found out what could scare him. And that was him hearing Will in the background pleading for his father and pleading to get away from Pennywise. So, Maya, what did you just think about this quick scene here with Leroy and the amazing callback to Dick saying he has no fear? And for Pennywise now to know, which is very interesting that Pennywise knows he has no fear.
Listen, number one callback of all callbacks, okay? Because my man's got him, and that's on the other. Like while people were watching it, it was a guiding moment happening because, like for real, I love that callback
Yeah,
because I asked the question, well, if he doesn't fear anything, like how does he like how is going to transition through the remainder of the
exactly.
series, and realizing, and I won't get too far ahead, but I love the passion that comes in the scene afterwards because now we understand that yeah, your brain may not be afraid. However, the emotions, right? There's a trigger that's happening that's still getting you this emotional reaction that says, no, 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 no. This is my child. This is my baby. And so again, masterfully done in terms of the play on how to get Leroy to be afraid now.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that was a masterful way that they played that out. But next up, we get Dick, and this is magnificent. It shouldn't be that funny. It should not be that funny. But next up, we get Dick as this is him still being bothered completely by every dead spirit as they're just haunting him, and he's just in his barracks with a gun pointed to his head as he's about just to end it all, just in a way to help to quiet these voices when Leroy busts in his room, tries to stop him from killing himself, and as Dick is about to follow through anyway, he just yells out, "It has will, and I need you." And this is also Leroy promising him, if you help me do this at the end, I'll do whatever it takes to help this thing stop. What did you think, Mike, just about this scene between them two? And again, this is another powerful scene between these two that we've seen a lot of in this series.
Yeah, for one, they have very great chemistry, and I think this is a point where you're seeing the
Mm-hmm.
man without fear, literally begging a person, just tell him, "Listen,
Mm-hmm.
like I do have fear. This is my child," and I think it was delivered very well from him when he said, "I just want to, please just help me save my baby," you know, you know,
Yeah,
um, like that. That was powerful because again, he's coming this whole season to come across as a strong man,
yeah,
and stuff, and or archetype of a character and stuff. But no, he's vulnerable when it comes to his family.
yeah,
um,
exactly.
so yeah, he just literally is a plea for help. And I don't know, there's an emotional like connotation to just to like a
Yeah.
black man about to take himself out, another black man come in the room and trying to
Mm-hmm.
stop him in some form of fashion. Tell
Exactly.
him that there's a lot of realism to that. Of just how powerful the scene is, even though in the context of the story is completely different. But again, it just is just showing that another level of um realism that
Mm-hmm.
scene, that environment, like, oh yeah, that can happen in a different context of a story.
Yeah.
But I thought they played that very well. Um
Hey, man.
yeah.
At this point, you got to give it up to both of them two in this series. This is some great acting, and this was a short scene but a very powerful scene. And then shout out to Javon who plays Leroy here. Our I'll say it for my just in case she didn't know, our fellow Bowie State alum as he is.
Hey, okay,
Yeah,
okay, I didn't know. Yeah, I listen. I had the names ready. I was like, shout out to Giovanna Depo and definitely, of course, to Chris Chalk because,
yeah.
just very
Hmm.
amazing. The brotherhood displayed in this particular scene right here for sure, as Mike,
Exactly.
pointed
This
out.
is just a powerful scene on just so many different levels of black men helping black men out
Yeah.
of really desperate situations here. But next up, we see the general, as this is the general just looking at the radar as we see this cloud completely taking over all of Derry. But at the same time, this is when a colonel comes in and informs him that Leroy has left the base which the general responds by saying, "It doesn't matter because it's too late anyway." Until he says, and another officer left with him, Dick hollering, and we see the general's face completely change when he realizes that Dick also left with Leroy. I know how it sounds at this point. I'm not new to this. Dang nabbit. But next up, we get Leroy and Dick as they arrive at Rose's farm. And this is them informing Charlotte exactly what happens to Will. We get to see the big breakdown of her literally beating Leroy and saying, "You were supposed to save us. You were supposed to protect him." And this is where they come up with a plan, as Rose lets them know. We can use the dagger, if we can find it, to replace the pillar that they destroyed. But here, the best thing happens in this episode as they attempt to say that Dick has gotten into Pennywise's mind before. He can do it again. And him saying, "All these voices I hear, and you all think I can do this. I can't do this." And Rose informs him, "I have a way to quiet all the voices in your head." This was a very solid scene. Amai, what did you think about? And just close out exactly after she gives him the I was about to say chamomile tea. That is so wrong. But after she gives him
What? Oh my gosh. First of all, my dad is vegan, and like if a lot of people know, vegans are very much into the herbs and
Yep.
not just weed. And so just looking at the Native Americans and knowing that Rose has these
Yes.
knows these remedies, right? I was not
Mhm.
surprised at all that she has something that could help, that could help
Yeah.
Dick. And what I loved about this is because there are two people in this spiritual realm, in this very intense, right, space, dangerous space, because going back to the grandma, once it can see Dick, now it's a different kind of story, so he does need to protect
Yeah.
himself. What I also found interesting was that in the midst of her giving him the tea, she's also telling him not to do something, and we don't know
Yeah.
what that thing is because the tea hits him so hard and so fast that he's just kind of like out of it. So I was really looking forward to like, well, damn, what is it that she was saying? And is he going to accidentally do that thing because he doesn't know what the thing is? So I thought this was a great scene again for a finale. So many things that are coming together, questions that are being answered, but even with the new things that are coming up, you don't feel like you're left trying to figure it out without getting an answer by the end.
Exactly. I think that's the most important part. Everything is laid out here, down to at the end of the scene where Dick is able to locate the dagger, and he says it's the girls, it's Will's friends, and they're going after him to save him. And in the following scene, we get the kids being kids for some odd reason, because Marge, all of a sudden, with one eye, can drive a milk truck. And she ends up hitting a pothole. And if you're from DC, I know, Marge, I know how you feel. Swear them potholes in DC and PG County are the worst potholes ever created in life. And they hit a pothole, end up crashing the milk trucks. Not much there to talk about that because the next scene is what's most important. And this is where
say Ronnie is annoying, okay? Because has she not been
my
bitching?
God. But Ronnie's been annoying this whole season.
We
just ain't
know,
paid
but just
attention to
let Marge drive the truck. She got one eye already. God damn it.
when
Okay,
she was
on.
already yelling, talking about, but my dad. At times you just want to say, forget him. Yes, yep. I said forget, but yes, that word quantifies.
Yeah, this part, he messing with white women. If I want to do my Dr. Umar, I can say he's already dead. I can say it. But if I wanted to do it, I would have done it. But
like, don't you find that suspicious? Don't you find that suspicious?
I beg your pardon. She's a clown. I
beg your highest pardon.
No. Undertaker music, hit it.
But next up, we get Dick again in the car as he locates the kids and locates the dagger. But this is where the first reveal of something we never thought about happens, and that is Rose informing them if they have this dagger, we need to hurry because the dagger will fight back. And if you hold it too long, it will drive you insane. I'm going to ask you all before we talk about the end of this scene. And I know it exists in the movie, and I cannot remember the name of the movie. Oh my God. I just thought about it and remembered it just as I was about to ask you all, where did it come from? It came from Harry Potter. Oh man, where they had the little
So
the
Sorcerer's Stone.
and Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. Where you hold on to something too long, and it will drive you insane. And at the same token, we get to see it effects on Lily as her, Marge, and Ronnie are walking to attempt to get to Will here, and we get to see the things starting to take her over as it's starting to feed negative thoughts into her exactly the way the adults said it would happen. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you, what did you just think about this whole setup, this whole scene, the reveal about the dagger fighting back? Because remember, this is part of the rock, the thing that brought the entity to Earth, and it's kind of fighting back to get back to him. And we get to see the impact of it on Lily during this whole process.
Well, I mean, there gotta be something, like it just
Mm.
it's a device. It can't be that easy, It's just, if that's the case, then people, it would have been brought up again,
Mm-hmm.
um, for in future installments and stuff like that. It's like, but no,
Yeah.
apparently with this, it's just like no, 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 because that way, like these pillars were not meant to be moved. That
Yeah.
was and stay there. So again, it's just like there's a cost, there's a sacrifice with that. Especially, I mean, let's just keep it. But anytime messing with Native American rituals and traditions and stuff like that, there's always something
Mm-hmm.
that's always tied to that. But then even on the supernatural element of it, they're gonna do
Yeah.
something where it corrupts you. Because the same thing happens, or some form of, I guess Pennywise did it, but just like
Yeah.
where one of the kids was not strong enough because he was just too scared. And then
Mm-hmm.
that ended up, corrupting him when he was an adult,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So it's just like um, or them trying to fight each other. It would be more aggressive and angry to each other, and that's and they explained that, well, even with this episode too, when Lily, I believe that's her name, right? Um,
Yes, that's
the
the
main.
one. The one at the dagger. Yes,
Okay, okay. I don't
Lily.
want to keep
Not
saying
not
crazy white
Manny.
girl
Not
because there's a
Manny.
lot of them.
Yeah, it's Lily.
Um,
A little crazy.
but yeah, no, no, no. But she was good. Like in this episode where she just felt like people were watching her. But then it's like, even then it's like they were watching her because, like, hey, you've been holding that for too long and stuff. And it's like the same thing Harry
Mm-hmm.
Potter, not just with Sorcerer's Stone, but also with the Horcruxes, where
Yeah,
Ron was wearing
when
it.
Ron had the Horcrux and he thought that Hermione and Harry was sleeping with another. See, now that I remember exactly,
Yeah,
like,
Lord.
yes, yes, I love Harry Potter. I
Me too.
absolutely love
yeah,
Harry Potter.
yes.
But Amaya, what did you think about the way this was shown? The mythology now behind not only just the dagger, all of these pillars and these pieces that came from the rock that brought Pennywise to Earth, that they're all kind of trying to get back to connect it to him, which kind of can lead to why, after a certain amount of time, he has to go underground away from it.
Hmm. Well, you know what? I thought that we saw like a preview, right? I think
Hmm.
maybe like episode 4 or 5, where Lily,
Yeah.
has it, and then you can see her kind of like, no, don't touch it. I got it. I'll hold on to it. So I was
Hmm.
waiting for them to like showcase a little bit more, like how
Yeah.
bad could it actually get? And so seeing her fight with it and wrestle with Ronnie and Marge, and then for Ronnie to say like you're a lifeboat, like the one of those words that brings her back.
Yeah.
For me, I
Hmm.
was like, okay, this is good, especially because it was a choice whether or not Ronnie was going to go at Lily again like she did the first
Hmm.
time, right? So I really love the growth that they showed in this scene, because if it would have happened any other way, you'd been like, well, okay, I mean, we saw that already.
Yeah.
But to see Ronnie understand, like, no, 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 the dagger is essentially affecting her. How do we help bring her back? And
Hmm.
I really did just love how they had that moment, and then they were able, and Marge was like, yo, like, we're gonna rotate this thing out, you know what I mean, we not,
Yeah,
nobody's gonna hold it too long. So I was really
exactly.
like, this, that scene itself, and just them continuing on the journey, knowing that they had to put something in place, because this is like the beginning of their journey, you know what I mean, like, so
Yeah,
if they have to set the boundary, or set the protocol, the grounding now, in order to move forward, because it's only going to get harder as they're trying to go and save Will.
exactly. And also during this whole time, the other big reveal that happened in the van, which is that if Pennywise gets outside of the town, there's no bringing him back. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the race against time, with this pillar being placed in this tree, which is the furthest point in town where all the pillars can connect to one another, which again can trap him. But the following scene is the kids fighting. And right after the fight, as Amaya pointed out beautifully, this is where they come to the conclusion that they'll share the dagger whenever someone's holding it too long, as they get to the edge of the lake and the dagger starts to glow. And as the dagger starts to glow, they see all the kids floating in the air. And Pennywise is in a wagon in front of everybody, which was possibly one of the dopest scenes. The way it's shot, the way that is set up in this episode, just to see that. And at the same time, we got Dick in the van as he tells them he sees the kids, he knows that they're at a frozen lake, and that he can see them floating, the other kids floating over the frozen lake. And this is where Rose tells them, if he's already there, we don't have time to get to the kids to stop him. And this is where Leroy comes up with the plan. Well, Dick has entered into his mind before. Maybe Dick can enter in his mind and slow him down here. So, Maya, what do you think about that plan? Because we did, and we're still wondering exactly what Rose told Dick to be careful of. So, did you think it could possibly be that when Leroy told him get into Pennywise's mind to try to slow him down?
Well, I thought for sure, because, again, like, he has to be able to protect his mind from
Mhm.
Pennywise while still being in Pennywise's space. And so I was interested to see where it was going to go. And as we get into the scene, I actually wasn't sure what I was seeing. So I was like,
Yeah.
dang, this is actually really good trickery, because I'm thinking, like, this is an actual moment where we're flashing back, and you see who Pennywise is after Bob gets essentially like hijacked, right? Body hijacked. And so um yeah, it's just very interesting the way that I would say Dick became stronger.
Yeah. And we know. Yeah.
But he became stronger, because now, one, he those other outside voices are off, right?
Exactly.
And he's able to focus. He has a goal, and I think that's the thing that's helping him
Yeah.
stay grounded. His goal is that, listen, Will is out there, the kids are out there. Our goal is to
Yes.
save them and to get this thing back in its cage, because whatever they were trying
Yeah.
to do in the military, that is a done deal, and it's going to put everybody in danger. So I think that, along with him having drinking the root that Rose gave him, definitely grounded him more. But like I said, that scene, as we go into it, was so good that I thought we were in a flashback, and I had no idea that
Yeah.
this was just Dick playing a trick. That's
Exactly.
a crazy line
And
to end
then
on.
and then next up, we get the girls as they get onto the frozen lake, as they see Will, and they're there to rescue Will. They said forget all the other kids, because they did not care about any of them other kids but Will. As they're jumping, trying to reach him just like kids would do. Again, that's why I absolutely love that they are literally acting like children here. Because that's what kids would do. They wouldn't try to say, look, let's stand on each other's arm. Nope, jump up till you can pull them down. Not questioning why is he in the air in the first place. But as they attempted to jump and get him down, this is where Pennywise comes out and attempts to attack them. And as he gets there, we see them pull the dagger out, and it stops him in his tracks, and then he runs away. But then he plays the game that Pennywise plays, as he is slowly stalking them around a circle until he can get them, as we see them try to fight him away with a dagger, which leads him to snatching up Marge. So I'm going to ask you this, Amaya, before we get into the other part between him and Marge. This whole scene right here between Pennywise and the girls as they're trying to get away, just his reaction to the dagger, which I want to get your insight on here, because we saw the first time with Lily, the dagger froze him and he couldn't move. Here, it didn't freeze him. He just had to back away from it and try to go around it instead.
I was a little curious as to why that was the case, because I was expecting him to freeze. And so I'm wondering, in my head, what I thought was he's eaten, right? He's had a chance to feed. And also he's captivated the kids in this. So now I'm wondering if that's feeding him, where it's making him stronger, because he can still eat them, but they're still floating, right? So as Lily or Ronnie or whoever, Marge, has the dagger, as they're putting the dagger out, the kids are still floating and Pennywise is still running around. So for me, I was like, he got stronger since the first time that they've had this encounter.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I came to that conclusion also. Like he has to be stronger, and it's possibly because he should be asleep now. Like after the big event, that's when he's at the peak of causing this chaos. He normally goes to sleep, and here you kind of woke him up because the pillow was removed, and maybe that's why now he's reacting the way he does to this dagger. But then next up, he ends up, as the girls are trying to push him back, he ends up snatching Marge away. And here we get one of the biggest reveals and most important scenes of this episode, as he is stalking Marge and he brings up she is Richie from the original It movies and books, that Marge is his mother. But that's only part of the reveal. The other reveal is him saying, one, your son killed me, him and his friends. But I don't know if it's in the future or in the past, because all time is the same to me. Mike, what did you think about the closing part of this scene between them two, up until when Dick gets into Pennywise's mind and he's able to freeze him before he eats Marge? What did you just think about not only the reveal of Marge being Richie's mom, but also the reveal that Pennywise can't tell the difference of time here. So he doesn't know what happened with Richie was in the future, in the past, in the present. All of it is relative to him.
Well, first, the fact that finding that Marge is Richie's mom, I thought the reveal of that was so surprising. Again, I've saw people on Reddit, making some speculation and stuff like that, but it's like when I'm getting to the episode, I wasn't even thinking about it. I'm more focused on if Will and
if Ronnie is Jessica. I already know what you was focused on, because I was focused on
right, exactly. I'm all about the black people, and I'm like, with this, I'm just like, oh wait, and then not like that, you took one of the most popular characters out of it, Richie, out of here, it was a teaser for Stranger Things, because anyway, by the time that it will come out, I think it's already come out by then, at least the first season. First half of the final season. But still, it's like she has glasses. She said, let's go kill this fucking clown. Like her word, what Richie said. And I was like,
word for word for what Richie said. Yep.
And it didn't hit me. Now I just thought, oh yeah, that's like, oh, they're just trying to make a nod to like that. And I was like, no, because that's his mom. Like, now, if you want to play logic, how does that make sense?
What do you mean? How does it make sense? Because technically, Will is Mike's dad.
Right, but what I'm saying is she didn't know who she was, because he said Tozier, right? And she's like, no.
And he said, no, not yet.
Right, exactly. And then I think but also the reveal of the time perception, I thought that was very like, wait, that's where I was just like, okay, this whole episode took a turn, where I was like, okay, I'm more leaning into this. And then just like saying that time is all that, and he thinking, oh yeah, if I just killed the mom now, I don't have to worry about these kids and stuff. But then and then he's conflicted just how twisted he is. But there's also like where his mind is at, certain times, even when he interacted with the general later on. He's like, I know you, you know. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so it's
It,
like it's not just that he just gets the memories of stuff of his victims and stuff. It's just he has his own memory of himself. And he's like, I don't know
mhm.
what is reality of certain things. I got a perception about certain times, but because I'm on a cycle, it's like, things whether the future, past, whatever.
Well, it's
And he
kind,
comes from the
yeah,
microverse. So it's like
yeah.
it's a out of space and time and everything. It's the whole thing and involve like Dark Tower and all of that stuff. Anyway,
Yep.
yeah.
Hmm.
But
Another element of Stephen King, and that's where it comes from, or Pennywise comes from. But again, that's why I think the most important aspect of it is not necessarily the reveal that Marge is Richie's mom. It's that he does not perceive time like normal people perceive time, because that adds a completely different layer to
yes.
what Pennywise is by saying that. Because that means not only does he know Marge is Richie's
You
uh
know,
mother,
well,
he know Will is Mike's father. So that means he could fully connect the dots. And now you kind of wonder then, is that the reason why he was going after Will so much? Because he knew who Will was. And if I know that your son is going to be eventually kind of the biggest catalyst to stop me, was Mike.
yes.
Because Mike is the one who stayed in Derry the entire time. And Pennywise would know this. But again, how are you getting all of this information? Like, is it because you lived it? Is it because he's eaten so many people and he's collected so many thoughts and memories, he can no longer perceive time properly? Because when he said, I don't know if that happened in the future or in the past, but I know it happens. And I know they killed me. Like, that is a very interesting
That's
element
big.
of it all.
No.
Yeah.
It definitely and I don't know how that adds into dimension of like future seasons, like with the next two
Yeah.
seasons, like how would that play out in a way where like we'll see another family member or extended
Hmm.
family member or somebody, someone different.
Yeah.
Because technically we interacted with at least three, well, out of the losers club, three
Three of the,
family members.
yeah.
So we have
Hmm.
the Jewish family, who is the one that died. That was the father. The brother was the father of one of the loser kids,
Yeah.
um, who eventually ended his life. And
Yeah.
but then we have Will, who's father of Mike, and then now we have Marge, who's mother of
Richie.
Richie. So yeah,
So you got to
so
wonder, like, how do the other kids play out? Who is Lily related to? Things of this nature that they don't reveal in this episode at all. So do you kind of wonder again? Is it just the town in general, as they always say about Derry and the things that can happen in Derry? But next up, all the kids who are floating are freed after Dick gets into Pennywise's mind and stops him in his tracks here. And then right after that, we get Tanyu and Lee. Oh, that name is so good. Tanyu is a hell of a name. I may have a kid named Tanyu because I've never heard that name before.
I love the
As
name.
Tanyu, yeah, as Tanyu and Leroy get the dagger and begin to attempt to take it to the tree, they are attacked by the army out of nowhere, and it leads to Tanyu being shot and killed. Amaya, what did you think about one? Just as we thought, okay, we're going to get a different, like, not necessarily we're going to get the ending here, but we're going to get a different type of chase scene between now the adults and Pennywise. For the army to come out of nowhere and start shooting them to stop them from stopping him.
I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie, but I wasn't surprised, right? Because we know that once the lieutenant or whomever came and told the general that
Mm-hmm.
Halloran and both Leroy were gone, right? That was a
Mm-hmm.
problem, and so we knew they were gonna show up somewhere. I was almost thinking that they were going to intercept the van, like on the way in, that somehow, So seeing them end up to be on the other side of the ice and deciding to open fire, knowing that the kids, and you know what I mean, like, again,
Mm-hmm.
no care in the world how this affects everybody else except for as long as they get what they came to get.
Exactly.
So yeah, surprised but not surprised. Very sad that Daniel makes it all the way to the end of the season just to die.
yeah.
Exactly. Now I'm mistaken with you here about the next scene right after Tanya was shot. And Leroy, who's actually also shot here, but he has the dagger and he gives it to Will. And he says, I need you to take this to that tree and put it in that tree, and this thing will go away. And we finally get to see a touching scene between father and son as Will says, I can't do it because I'm scared. And he says, because I'm not you. And Leroy's response is, I don't want you to be me. What did you think about that? Because we've been waiting for a touching scene between father and son since the beginning of the season when Charlotte said, you don't have a real relationship with him.
It was great to see, to understand that in this moment, Will being vulnerable, right? To really share and say, like, Dad, like, I know I've been out here in these streets a little bit, right? Trying to save my friends. But the reality of it is, I am scared and I'm not you, and what I love is that Leroy gets to understand like what he's been presenting and what his son has been
Yeah.
seeing versus what he probably wanted to showcase, right?
Mm,
And him being able to encourage his son and to really motivate him to say, like, you don't need to be me. Like, I see
exactly.
you. I love you for who you are and how you've
Mhm.
been showing up for these friends. Like, you got this. Like, you can do this. And I was grateful for that moment because, one, it gave him that first level, you know what I'm saying? Like level
Yeah.
1, okay,
Yeah.
confidence. His friend showing up was level 2, and just being able to continue to push him. And so I was super happy because we didn't know. I wasn't sure if Lee was gonna make it,
Yeah.
honestly. You know what I mean? So for him to have that moment based on the unknown, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm glad that we got that.
Exactly. And then in the following scene, we get the general. This is when the general just gives the orders out to get Leroy and to get Dick. He just sends his soldiers to do it. At the same time, through his binoculars, he happens to see Pennywise, and he sees Pennywise completely frozen. And then in the next scene, we flip to what's going on in Pennywise's mind as he's now being trapped in Bob Gray's memories. And this is all being done by Dick, who is using his psychic powers to trap him. But we also see Pennywise attempting to fight back, threatening people, and they're like, I'm not him. I'll kill all of you all. But because the way Dick has him trapped in his mind, he can only respond back to them like Bob would physically. Mike, what do you think about this scene, the way this plays out of how Dick has trapped Pennywise in his own mind?
So first, the fact that we get this show to just say that we have a black man that bitch slapped Pennywise in the face. I
Yeah.
think that's I think I'm glad we waited 8 episodes for that to happen.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and also for once to see Pennywise be caught off guard, like
Yes.
in a way where it's like, what's going on here? You know, to a point where you see his mind, he using a memory that's not his own. Like even though it's a body he's imitating, but
Yep.
still, it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
no, you chose this persona from Bob Gray, so now you're gonna deal with this aftermath. And I think that's one of the biggest things that he gets upset about is that I'm not Bob Gray, I'm not your dad, but even though you take his body, his face, and everything else, but it's like, and for looks of it, you've been this Bob Gray, you've been the Pennywise clown for over what uh 60 years at this point,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so it's like this is a part of you. So it's like that go back to that core memory of from there. It's like, wait, what's going on here? But again, I
Exactly.
got shout out to the visual effects where you stop midway when you have a big deformed mouth,
Yeah.
and stuff. And you did that twice already, right? And I thought both scenes and stuff were just like it's scary, but also just like, man, it's just like you want part of you want to look around, it's like, hey,
Mm. And then you sound like somebody who had actually was dumb enough to do that. And
yes.
next up, we get the general as he approaches Pennywise, and then he tells it, whatever Dick has done to you, I'm going to free you so you can continue to do what you've been doing. At the same
Pretty cool.
time, this is happening while Dick is still in Pennywise's mind, controlling him. We see the army finally arrive on scene. They arrest Leroy. They They pull everybody out the van and they throw Dick out the van, which leads to his connection being weakened on Pennywise. And Pennywise just happens to see it in his mind that this white man all of a sudden has a black hand. And he proceeds to pull off Dick's mask in his dream, and it awakens Pennywise. So right there with that scene, I'm asking you, Maya, what did you just think about just the control method that Dick used to control Pennywise, but the way Pennywise reacted the moment that Dick's connection got weakened?
Again, I loved it. The way that, because it's something so subtle but not subtle, right? Because you see, like I said, I didn't know what we were doing. I'm thinking we in a flashback until I'm realizing, oh, okay, this is actually Halloran, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to see him, to see that hand pop up, and you like, wait a minute now, it's a black hand. Like, oh, okay. And
Dick
for
move.
Pennywise to figure it out and then to pull the face off. I thought it was just such a clever way, because anything else might have been too little or too much, but that was literally like just right. It was a perfect segue into Pennywise realizing like, wow, oh, I got tricked and it's time for me to get back to the shenanigans.
Exactly. And in the following scene with that, we see the general as Pennywise is awakened. And this is the general basically saying, you're free to go. Do whatever it is that you want to do. And as Pennywise is about to walk past the general, he starts smelling and said, wait a minute. I've smelt you before. Said, I never forget a smell, which immediately makes him turn to the general, and the general who's attempting to act strong and to act like he has no fear, up until Pennywise transforms himself into the original monster that General Francis remembered. And as he immediately feels that fear, Pennywise immediately bites his head off and starts eating them. Mike, what did you think about this scene between the general and Pennywise?
So again, after when we found out what his true plan was in episode 7, like, I'm through with him. I was like, yeah, you stupid. And then not only that, forget the whole childhood friendship he made with the Indian girl, and stuff. The fact that you already now led to basically her nephew getting killed because you just didn't care. You disrespected her land, you disrespected her wishes, and she saved your ass when you're a child, but she should let you die. And now basically we just return the favor to get back to where it is, stupid. I don't know any other way.
What the old saying say?
No, that's
play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Listen, because I mean, what did it for me was him trying to talk to him like he was some sort of pet. Like, you better stop it. You better cut it out. Like, what? Get your ass on out of here. You deserved. Listen, I'm a little mad they didn't give us a more gory, gruesome death for him. How about that? Because he deserved to die.
What?
Like,
if at any time we should have got a Venom death of him flipping him up and you see him eating the general whole, that would have been perfect. Because you said it perfectly. He attempted to treat Pennywise like a pet.
Absolutely.
Don't you turn on me. Sit down. And Pennywise like, oh, I'm sorry. I tried to eat you 40 years ago and you escaped me. Yeah, I don't like missing meals now. But next up, we get, and this whole scene here is just a long play. That's the basically way to put it here. As we get the race of Pennywise versus the kids versus the tree. I'm just going to say that, and then I'm going to let you two riff it off. So, Mike, what did you think about the play out at this point of the kids attempting to get the dagger into the tree as we see Pennywise skipping and skating past all the adults going after the kids?
Again, I think it was more like heightened, like the tensions of the be anticlimactic in a way, but just saying that these kids are trying to, one, their parents are being held by gunpoint, and 2, you got the Pennywise in the corner there, just paralyzed. Now he's free, and then they have this dagger. They're trying to pull it, but then also it's corrupting Will to will pull away from it. And again, it's a force just at the like last second, trying to push it. But with all that being said, it's like it made sense what a child would do in a way of in adventure stories and stuff. Of doing stuff like that, Goonies, other stuff, whatever you want to call it.
It's
like
it's another movie recently that we saw, Mike, that this reminded me of too.
Yes. No.
Yeah, it was all Black Phone 2. Because I said, wait a minute, is Pennywise floating on ice, like the grabber was floating on ice, going after the kids, just like the grabber was going after the kids?
We're not. This is not Dream Warrior, the prequel, that stuff. But the question is, who did it first? Was it Pennywise? Was it Freddy? Exactly. But anyway, then I thought that was good there. But man, I won't jump into the other scene that happened here. But
we're gonna jump into the last part of the scene.
But I think again, it was beautiful in terms of like his tension is like last second as he's going skipping around, and then only for the dad to shoot him, to at least cripple him with some form of fashion. Because if he would just skip all the way, we were through.
Yeah. Amaya, what did you think about the way this scene played out with these kids banding together to attempt to take this dagger and put it in the tree, as you see the dagger fighting back at the same exact time?
I'm not gonna lie, skipping like the shots, the cinematography is phenomenal. Skipping versus pushing to the dagger, skipping, push to the dagger, skipping, looking at the parents, laughing, he on the way to your kids, the kids, like it's so well done that you're just like, and you're on edge trying to figure out what is gonna happen, because he's not going after these parents, and his goal is to make the parents suffer by watching what he does to the kids. But like Mike said, Leroy is a masterful shot, right? So he's able to get the rifle, he gets it all, he's able to pop Pennywise a couple of good times, and we see them take over, obviously, the soldiers that were holding them hostage. I love shout out to the unspoken black head nods and the looks that be like, hey, you ready? I'm ready. And Rose in on it too. I'm like, let's go, so this scene again, just really, really well done. I love that what you pointed out earlier, the kids are just being kids, but they are also learning. This is where you learn your core like group skills, right? Like this is not how you want to learn them, but this is how you gotta learn them tonight. But the core group skills in terms of like, one of us is struggling. How do we help? How do we help? How do we push? How do we support? How do we get you to the goal? The goal is to get this dagger to the tree. And I like how Will is like, well, turn me around, right? And then let's do it, because now it's less tempting, so to speak. But yeah, just beautifully done in terms of, and I agree with Mike, had Leroy not getting the shot off a couple of times, this would have played out completely different. But the way that it played out was perfectly.
Exactly. And at the same time, as they're fighting on there, and as Leroy gets a couple of shots off to attempt to slow down Pennywise, out of nowhere, we see a child running. And we see a look on Dick's face as he sees this child running. And as he sees this running, it's revealed that this child that is running towards his friends is Richie, with his middle finger up to Pennywise as he's running. And as Rose asks Dick, what do you see? And he says, a fucking miracle. As we get Richie, as he gets to the kids in pursuit to help them push this dagger into the tree. At the same time, we see Pennywise changing his formations, which we have not really seen outside of what was it, chapter 2, Mike, where you get to see Pennywise change from the clown to what he actually is. And here we get to see it multiple times as he's trying to fight through and get to them before they can do the inevitable, which is push this dagger into the tree. But before they do, as Leroy has gotten off 2 shots to destroy his head twice, Pennywise makes him float and then that stops him. But just in time, the kids push the dagger into the trees. I'm asking you, Amaya, what do you think about this climax moment here for this big adventure with them and Pennywise, as we see Pennywise become the ultimate monster after Leroy's not able to save the kids and help them?
First of all, I just want to shout out in the kid's name who plays as Rich is Arion Cartaya, all right? But just first of all, his character is just so amazing
Yeah.
and the depth that he has to play in the variety, right? But what I will point out is that the same chief that Dick followed to get that
Mhm.
dagger also returns and shows up with Rich. So I
Yep.
love that there is that play on, yes, you followed me to get to this thing. Now it's a full circle moment back where you realize what you did was that shit crazy. I'm bringing you a lifesaver, and that
Yeah.
lifesaver turns out to be Rich. And it's just again something I didn't expect to see. Perfectly well done, right? And this moment of him running past everything that's happening,
Mhm.
slingshot in his pocket, and he gets there just in time to help them push the dagger in while Pennywise is turning into his full self, wings and
Yeah.
all, face coming off, the whole shebang. And super powerful moment to have because presence. And I think for me it was just
Yeah.
I got emotional, right? Because we've all lost
Mhm.
somebody, but there is something innately in you that you feel that moment where you're like,
Mhm.
if you're really in tune to spirit, you're like, all right, cool. And it was that moment for me where I was just like, damn, this is just a
Yeah.
perfect way to really end, even though it wasn't the end per se of the episode, to end it in a way where they're all back together again. It was just really, just again, just really well done.
Really played. Yes. The amazing way it played out. Mike, what did you think about this conclusion to this big adventure for the kids as they finally get the dagger in the tree to stop Pennywise?
I don't. First, it was some like emotional like about it, but like in a way where like Pennywise technically didn't. I mean, you would say technically didn't kill Richie, but circumstances
Well, he
surrounding that he
did,
was there,
because he created the situation to kill
right?
Richie. I'm
And
sorry.
but then only, but again, the middle finger to him, that was again, that was perfect. And then just for him
Yeah.
to slide in there slowly in slow mo, only to like you know to like support his friends, to get through
Yeah.
that force and everything, only to make the scene later at the funeral even better with that. But I thought
Man.
again
Yeah.
that's where like that last episode again, the actor was like, okay, you did a good job of owning this, because I was trying to find a difficult way of trying how I attached this character, but then
Yeah.
it's like, unfortunately, then only in death, that's when he was actually interesting, but I felt like they paid it off in a very good way to also not only serve the Marge and everybody else, his friends, but
Yeah.
also serve Dick Halloran as well. It's the
Exactly.
future of us. Hey, ability I have here is not a curse here. So, yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And right after that, after they have finally confided Pennywise back to his trap for the next 27 years, we next up get to Rich's funeral, as Mike pointed out. See the kids sad, but the most touching element of it is as the parents are there crying, we see Dick go over to the parents and he tells them that hand that you feel on your shoulder is your son, and he will always be with you. Like, it's one of those extremely touching moments, but that's not the part I want to discuss, because that part is already enough. The scene that we need to discuss here is Marge and Lily. As Marge tells Lily everything Pennywise told her about a son that she was going to have and how the son causes his death. But this leads Marge to wonder, because Pennywise is like time is relative and he can't tell the difference of it. She wonders, will this mean he could go back in time and kill us before we were born, or kill our parents And Lily's response is, that will be someone else's problem. Maya, what did you think about just the way this plays out between Lily and Marge in this scene?
First of all, shout out to Marge for making a comeback. All right, because I ain't
Yeah.
like her ass in the beginning. She could have kicked rocks up and told shoes on. But I it's interesting because even in that conversation that Marge had with Pennywise, you're still
Mhm.
kind of like so distracted with everything that's happening that you don't necessarily pay close attention. So for her to bring
Yeah.
it back and then have the conversation with Lily, I was like, oh wow, like this is interesting. And I mean, I agree with her. That will be somebody else's problem, but how will it affect them? Whether it's the past,
Mhm.
present, or can't tell, like how will it affect them? So again, good conversation, but I like the way that they had it and they still feel like children talking, right? And nothing about this entire series with these kids, nothing about it felt adult like. They felt like children
Yeah,
through and through.
exactly. Now, I want to say it's said in this scene. I'm not 100% sure. Mike, I'm going to have you correct me as I get your opinions on this scene between Marge and Lily. Is this where also Marge says something to the extent of Pennywise saying that my death is my birth? I just can't remember where that line got played it out. I said I want to believe. Amazing is the only thing not in my notes that I think is played out in this scene here. But Mike, one, what you think about this whole conversation between Marge and Lily, and the saying that someone said in this episode that Pennywise stated, "My death is my birth."
Mm-hmm. So, well, with that conversation again, going back to you're saying like it's like kids having that conversation, like, hey, he said something here. I don't know what it means, but as an adult, you understand more context of it. But to her to say, "Oh, that is someone else's fight," is just kind of
Yeah.
just showing just the that one that the story isn't over. Two,
Yep.
that it gives more interesting paradoxes of scenes to happen in future
Mhm.
seasons to a point that I don't think they're going to be changes in time, but I think they're going to be now that we know that Pennywise that all this to him is the same, that we're going to see now at this point not just references to in
Mhm.
chapter 1 and chapter 2, but even to with this current time in 1963 is of everything kind of bleeding over. Like I think you're gonna get more like the bodies they digged up in beginning
Yeah.
of this season. I think we're gonna find out who those people are and how that situation happened. And
Mhm.
everything. So again, it adds to kind of everything's connected, and it somehow is creating your own cinematic universe. What so
Yep.
within the same IP to make it things
Mhm.
more connected and layered. Like, oh well,
Yeah.
it's not like what came first, chicken or the egg. No, it's both. Like you were always supposed to kill this person because if that's the case, this person with XYZ led to this or
Exactly.
whatever. Or so that's and I think for you as the viewer, you've been know like, okay, well, he knows this. The viewers might not the characters might
Yep.
not know this, but at least that
But
line is just
mhm.
showing the context surrounding the next two seasons when it get greenlit, whatever. But now
Yeah.
the part about saying uh my death is my birth. I think that's I gotta rewatch it because I think it's what he was saying was that if Richie's born, then that means I'm guaranteed I'm going to die. And that I think that's more of like, well, if I kill you, then that'd be um that means that I'm able to survive and everything. But then also like kind of bleeding into the paradox of time where you just don't know whether like do you not know your
Yep.
son Richie, you don't
Mhm.
know who he is, like and so I think again it might I don't know, it might just be some type of residual effect of the pillars as
Mm.
well, the fact that he
That's uh-huh.
because normally he wouldn't had that line before, other than just like I remember you 27 years ago. That's it. Like in the
Yeah.
movies, he didn't like, oh, I know the future, I know the past, everything. So it's
Trust
like
me.
I think
we- We're going to have a couple of discussions as we go through these last points of this episode
yes.
about the future. Because boy, I have questions now all of a sudden that I did not have before. But quickly, let's go through these last things to close out this episode. As next up, after all this happens, we get Dick as he visits Leroy and them as they're packing up. And this is where Dick gets the big reveal that everyone knows is coming. As Dick says, I have been hired by one of my friends to go to a hotel in London, and he's hired me as a cook. And Leroy says, if you need my help, always know I'm here for you. And he says, being a cook in a hotel, that can't be that bad. Not too much action there. Clearly, we know what this is because the hotel he goes to is the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, and clearly it's a lot that happens at that hotel once Dick gets there. But that is the end of Dick for this episode here. Following up, we have Charlotte, and this is her just wishing Hank good luck here as they're trying to square him away to get him fully out of Derry at this point, him and Ronnie, so that they can live a peaceful life. At the same time, this is where Rose informs Leroy and Charlotte that the farm that she's at will be up for sale because without Tanya there, this is just too much for her. But she makes an offer to Charlotte and Leroy, not only about the farm, but she made an initial offer about them staying there and being part of the council to help control this thing. So, Maya, I'm asking you first. What do you think about this in whole? This conversation between Rose, Leroy, and Charlotte.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Again, like she said, now that Tanya is gone, the land is a lot for her. But also now that they have experienced it firsthand, seen it, they now know what it is, and there is no need for Rose. She doesn't have to sugarcoat anything. She doesn't have to hide. They've experienced it. They are part of the pack, whether they like it or not. So not surprised at all that she's given them an official invitation to be part of the people who protect Derry and protect the people who are here. So yeah, I wasn't surprised, and I knew that because of Charlotte's nature. And I love the conversation, especially between Charlotte and Leroy afterwards, in terms of your mess and my mess, and that's how we end up here. Well, it ain't my mess and your mess. If it's our mess this time, it'll be different. And again, back to my statement earlier, for episode 7, they were two different sides of the same coin, but now they get to join in that unity. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that Rose gave them this offer and that they decided to stay.
In the end, they decided. Well, we already knew they was going to take it because that's part of the way this plays out in the universe. And that's what I want to ask Mike. Mike, what do you think about this big reveal that Rose asked Leroy and Charlotte to be part of the council, but also wanting them to have the farm to stay in Derry?
Because they knew that their bloodline will lead to the end of the of actually destroying this Pennywise, some form of fashion. I think if somehow their tribe kind of feel like, what, there's something different about this family. It's not just with Will, it's not just with Charlotte, but also with Leroy as well. It's like, no. Like we have been around this thing long enough, in this town to see people, and families being affected by it. But you have a different mindset and something about you that, I think you can handle this. That's what I think is there. Now again, it was up to me. I'm saying Charlotte. I'm like, no, let's get the hell up out of here. Will I say racism better than this? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, as Leroy pointed out, he got on for 27 years. We got 27 years before we need to worry about it again. But that's not why I asked you that, Mike. I asked you that because this leads a very interesting question that's not explored. This means Leroy fully knows.
He knew the whole thing the whole time when Mike,
his grandson, was attempting to tell him in his cave. That means Leroy would have known everything. Already. That's what I meant by that.
That's what I'm questioning too. I'm looking back at old scenes.
That's a crazy change now because he was only focused on Mike working the farm with him. We saw that part. but not him revealing, I know exactly the monster that's coming after you because it's the 27-year mark.
Yeah. If maybe if the farm was somewhat connected of the pillars of,
Mm,
and that's the only reason, like, hey, listen, I don't care if Pennywise is whatever is killing up here. We still got a job to do here of just making sure he just stays here, you know.
wow.
So
Mm,
regardless, and regardless of whether what's the stuff, the craziness going on, we know
yeah.
craziness is going on, but we know it's crazy if we don't do our job and this pillar gets, you know, um, you know, moved or left or whatever, and
Yep.
this guy's out, for sake of the world.
All over
So
again.
focus on
Yeah.
this farm, focus on this sheep, and do your job.
Well, next up after that, we just get a sweet moment between Ronnie and Will's. I mean, I said, yeah, but yeah, Ronnie and Will. Just a sweet moment. Not much there to talk about it because we we still know she's not Jessica in the end. So it's not that big of
But
a
where's
department.
she going? Witness protection?
Well, she's just going away from Derry. That's all we know here. And then after that, we get Charlotte. This is with where she agrees to stay in the dairy, as we already brought up with her and Leroy here. Not much here to talk about, except for something very interesting. And that's when she made the decision to stay, and Will gets out the car and starts writing a letter. And they say in the letter quickly, maybe you won't forget about Derry if I write you about Derry. But we always know the moment she's going to leave Derry, all of that memory stays in Derry and none of it will go with her. So again, I think it's a very interesting thing in a way they play that out. As then after that, we get to see Hank and Ronnie as they are leaving Derry, and then the following scene, we go to Juniper Hill, and we get to see Ingrid as she's kind of little bat crazy here. As I'm assuming she's telling them that this thing and what it did, but because she's in Juniper Hill, they immediately think she's crazy here. And then we fast forward to 1988. And this is where we get to see basically the beginning of It Chapter 1. As we get to see Beverly's mom has just hanged herself. And the old woman who goes in there to comfort her and says the most chilling words that goes throughout not only this series, but the It movies, which is, don't you know that if you die in Derry, you don't really die? And then we get to see Beverly from again It Chapter 1 turn around. So I'm start with you first in mind, and I'm gonna let Mike close it out. What did you just think about this closing scene with Ingrid first, young Ingrid as she's being strapped down in Juniper Hill, to old Ingrid, and now we get to see the full connection of the Welcome to Derry to It Chapter 1.
Yeah, well, I mean, seeing it full circle was like, there's the it moment, right? And for me, it's making me want to go back and watch It Chapter 1, right? Because it's been a while. But
Yes.
you really, now that you've seen Welcome to Derry, you're like, oh, okay. Now let me go and watch the story in continuation to see what else I'm gonna see that I might have missed and to connect the dots. So I think it was well done. You know, that play
Mhm.
on seeing the mom hang herself and then getting that
Mm.
girl, turning around. Like it was just so succinct. It fit perfectly.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna say
felt
Mike.
because so like that scene also again it's the glue of in chapter one, but
Mhm.
again but because she has a relationship with Mrs. Kirsch, but we don't see her meet Mrs. Kirsch in part one, but we see her meet Mrs. Kirsch in part two. But I'm like, well, where did you meet her in part one? We didn't see that. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
okay, now means right before when she knew her when the
Yeah.
mom died, which is why like when she goes back that she's the first person she goes to, but she's probably already dead.
Mhm.
So it's like it's crazy. But first of all, the actress plays Beverly. Again, this movie came out in 2017, right?
Yep.
And I don't even want to call it the age. I know they filmed this show about like a year or so ago, probably two. But like,
You wonder how does she look the same?
Yeah, I mean, because
Oh,
in chapter two, even though they shot the film back to back, like those kids had growth spurts to the point they had the CGI some of their faces to look like they're younger.
I mean,
And
or you can do
also,
like other shows and just go along with it and act like they're still teenagers, even
but
though
she
they're
does like the
like
actress
being
does
chased by
look the way
monsters
she
now.
does. Yeah, or just
Well,
cast somebody black and play
I'll give
her.
you a hint here, Mike, because I noticed that, but that's just clever editing. So the only new portion of it is Ingrid walking. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else is pulled from the original movie.
Yep,
So
that's
What?
what I
if you
was
shoot
saying.
that shot from behind and you never show the person behind in the scene with the child, it looks like it's all a new scene, but it's not. It's literally pulled from the movie, and then you splice it with the other one on top of it, and you just put them together in editing, and it makes it look like one whole scene. But it
Yep.
is a cut in that scene that I noticed the cut in the scene. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's why it looks like one. Yeah,
Yeah, I was about to say that's what it is. I only, my brain only went there because I just recently watched Ballerina and John Wick, right? And
yeah,
there's a scene in there that's so seamless. You think you watching John Wick, and I was like, damn, that's a great job. So yeah,
yeah. Great edit, great cut, great edit there.
Well,
Yes,
yeah, when they went
1,000%.
downstairs in Ballerina, and you see the ballerina looking at John as he's going in, as he reliving John Wick 3.
mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, it's the it's the way you
All
can
right,
cut
Mike.
things. But
All right, Mike.
speaking of cut things, this is it. I'm gonna ask you all too. What are your final thoughts on episode 8 and your final thoughts on the entire series of It? Welcome to Derry. I'm gonna start with you first, Maya.
2 thumbs up. I've always been a Stephen King fan. Shout out to my mom, who, while I was reading Goosebumps, said, if you really want to read something scary, here's Cujo. Needless to say,
That's crazy. Did you
yeah,
went from Goosebumps to Cujo?
but
Oh my
I've
god.
always, yeah, the very wild jump. But always been a Stephen King fan. It's just been
Mhm.
such a long time since I've actually read the It book, but this was a phenomenal job. I mean, again, it's horror is not easy to do, and sometimes people
Yeah.
miss the mark without keeping the story consistent and getting the flow. Again, the kids actors, shout out to them, and actresses, just phenomenal job on the seriousness, the goofiness, the still being a kid, all of it. I'm really
Yeah.
excited for what this season gave us, and I'm excited to see what the series will continue to give us moving forward. So definitely going to rewatch it with my husband from beginning to end. So yeah.
Mike, what are your final thoughts on episode 8 and on the series?
sorry, I had to look up what Cujo was. Damn dog and shit.
Ex, ex,
But
ex, excuse,
um,
wait,
anyway,
excuse the hell out of excuse.
um,
Nope, 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 nope.
that
Did you
Cujo,
just
what is
say
that?
you had to look up what Cujo was?
I know, was
Huh,
like, what the hell, Cujo?
you forgot
Cujo,
how old he was.
Oh my
Cujo. Let me
god.
look at a dog. Beethoven.
Well, Mike wasn't born when the movie Cujo came out, but that's no excuse.
I
That is
was
no
swimming.
excuse.
Okay, I was
No, you
swimming.
wasn't even swimming. You wasn't swimming when Cujo came out. Because I was a year old when Cujo came out. So you wasn't even swimming then, buddy.
I was.
You
My father is older than you,
nah,
so
you would know you wouldn't even populate in the sack yet. He had to get off a couple more before he got to you.
I
You weren't even
disagree.
swimming yet.
I disagree. Anyway, but no, it was I think this show again is one I'm not really. It's been this past 5 years I've been kind of like acclimated to like horror. Like horror was never really my category.
Yeah.
Before then it was more like, okay, I'm seeing the slasher films, and really I'm just kind of going into the 90s and the new semi sequels and reboots that they were
Yeah.
happening in the early 2000s that were horrible. And so it's just like it was a fine line of that where after like Jordan Peele and also certain horror films and other shows like Split and other things and stuff. Like I was actually kind of broadening my filmography for and my palette for it, and I'm just more there for story than anything of shock value. And this show, from start to finish, just gave me that 10 times over. And I'm really excited to see what they have in store for future season. Andy Muschietti,
Yeah.
this also this gives me a palate cleanser for Andy Muschietti. just this just recently was things going on, and I hope he can use the way dedication he's done with this show on Batman. Okay, that's I hope, if he's still writing it. But anyway, I'm excited, Bill. You're the GOAT for this, and then great character in film horror history and everything, and then you in a way that a revival had became more popular than the TV movie.
Mhm.
Some strange, normally that doesn't happen, but it's just like you've now made an icon of Bill as Pennywise, and you're going to milk this as long as you can. So hopefully, depending on which studio buys it, we get a Universal Park. I don't know, up at Derry. Who knows?
Well,
Depends on who buys him. But yeah.
well, after this, hopefully you watch Cujo, because that is a shame that you didn't know what Cujo was.
I
I'm
just
just
looked
gonna
at it. It's
start
a
off
damn
with,
dog with like teeth. I'm like, what is
oh,
this?
if
Some
you
Beethoven?
just think it's a dog with
Cuckoo?
teeth, you don't understand just how
Yeah,
terrifying
it's
Cujo is. But
mortifying. Yeah.
also, Netflix is doing a remake of Cujo, which is coming out next year, that is supposed to be directed by Darren Aronofsky. So that should tell you how important that is, because that's a huge director to attach to Cujo, and it's a reason
Mhm.
why, because everybody's
Interesting.
terrified of Cujo. But my final thoughts on it. Welcome to Derry episode 8. This episode gives you everything you need to close out a series, from the action to the emotional beats of it, just to the fun that you get to have in this episode. This is the way you close out a series based off of a horror property that everyone loves. You don't necessarily need to knock it completely out the park, because you've already done that. Here is just, you need to close it out enough to leave your audience satisfied. And that's what episode 8 does. It's still a solid episode. I do think episode 7 is a better episode than episode 8. But I still think episode 8 closes it out perfectly. And not only that, it fully sets up the future of not only this series, but it will make some people go back to look at the films to see what they missed. They can possibly connect it even more to this show. But again, thank you all for tuning in. You can catch this recap review right after the episode airs. And just let us know in the comments, what do you think? What do you think about the series as a whole? What do you think about the kid actors? What do you think about the way they attach Stephen King's lore throughout this entire series? And did this series make you want to go back to read up on a little bit more Stephen King, whether it be Shawshank, whether it be, as Mike pointed out, the benevolence being that Pennywise is, and where that being came from in Stephen King's lore? And or is it going to make you want to know more about Derry, as Derry is connected throughout all of Stephen King's work, and just to sit back and watch it and enjoy the show for what it is. But this has been another recap review brought to you from the Culture Collective, fueled by, empowered by Big Gold Belt Media. Peace.